So, Plants vs. Zombies 3 had its most recent beta come out this month. I'm just going to assume that you already know about PvZ3, or at least older versions of it, especially since this video is probably pretty late to the party, so I'll spare you the overview. With its arrival though, not only did we get a lot of answers that I really didn't want to hear, but many more questions became apparent. This video is really just a thought dump and rambling. There's a lot on my mind surrounding the October 2022 beta, and it's true that much of this is just stating the obvious, but I felt like having a somewhat organized video would work in getting all of my thoughts out there. Yes, I recognize this is a beta. However, not counting the old pre-alpha versions from 2019 and 2020, which, yes, I did play by the way, I distinctly remember getting stuck on floor 15 due to zombie leveling. This is the third beta released in the span of a little over a year, and there are still massive problems that haven't been touched by the developers at all. I think it's reasonable to assume that these changes won't be made, so I'm finally going to talk about them. With that said, here we go. The October 2022 beta didn't bring us a lot of new stuff level-wise, and most of the stuff I have to go over is in some way related to PvZ3's story. Right off the bat, you're introduced to a new hub world, where you go around the map of Neighborville repairing the city from Zomboss's shenanigans. Taco tickets have been reworked, so instead of them being for progressing in the story, they're used as a currency for redesigning the town. For those who haven't played PvZ3, you get one taco ticket after beating each level. A lot of people dislike this because this concept has already been done in other games like Gardenscapes. But I'm gonna be completely real, I find this really cute, and while it's a bit unnecessary, I like it. It makes a lot of sense when it comes to the story, assuming PvZ3 takes place after all the other games, and it's just a bit of fun customization to your world. The problem with this is that it feels incredibly disconnected from the actual gameplay. My only wish regarding this is that the changes are somehow reflected in actual levels, such as with the driveway. That would definitely make it feel more consequential to the game, even if it's only just visually. The story itself is different too, but I honestly didn't really pay attention to the actual dialogue, so I'm not the type of person to ask about it. Don't really care too much about it, as the PvZ games historically have not had award-winning stories. Another big addition is Dave's Defenders, which is essentially the Butterfelden tournament. Another big addition is Dave's Defenders, a league based off of where on the lawn you kill zombies. In this beta, it seems that it's the exact same setup throughout, with 2 points being awarded if you kill a zombie in the 7th column, 3 in the 8th, and 1 in the 9th. Going to assume this is simply just because it's a beta, and it hasn't been coded in yet, but if in the final game it's always like this, then that'd be a problem. I think this is a really fun concept, though I'd like Dave's Defenders a lot more, if not for 2 major flaws. 1. You cannot choose your plants. This is a topic I'll delve into later. 2. As of right now, you cannot replay levels. If you're trying to optimize scores for the league, you only have 1 chance. I seriously hope both of these issues are fixed, but once again, these are topics for later. The version of this beta also added Vasebreaker. It's a mode you can only play once a day to earn rewards, and the levels seem to be incredibly simple to a point of them being questionable at best. Unlike with the Vasebreaker we've seen in the first 2 main series games, instead of giving you plants in the vases, they give you sun. The music is an extended version of April's trailer, but otherwise there really isn't that much to say. I've never been a big Vasebreaker guy, but I guess it's nice to see. Outside of those additions, there really isn't too much to talk about. There are a few plant balancing changes, increasing the cost of sunflower, pea shooter, bamboo shoots, and chili bean, all by 1 sun. They seem to have slightly sped up the map music and switched a couple of instruments, too, but I'm no musician so I couldn't tell you exacts. As the story is only the first 24 levels, and everything else story-wise after level 24 remained untouched in this beta, it seems that Douglas was removed. Rest in peace, Douglas. Dave is also once again Crazy Dave. Otherwise, not too much to say here. There are slight issues with all of these, but since these were just added or changed, there's a lot of time and opportunity for them to fix said issues. Virtually all of the ones regarding the new additions are minor anyway. Let's get into the bads. The same bads that you've heard talked about countless times, as almost everyone has had a problem with them, and yet over the span of 13 months, they haven't been reworked once. The one that people mention the most: you can't pick the plants you're using. This is a problem for very obvious reasons, mainly because choosing your seed bank is easily the most important part of the PvZ games up until this point, essentially removing what makes PvZ so enjoyable, replayable, and memorable, something that is the heart of the gameplay, and possibly the entire identity of the franchise, is not a good move if PopCap wants PvZ3 to thrive. The level design is the definition of atrocious. All 50 levels of this beta are essentially just a glorified tutorial, with most levels being incredibly quick. For example, here's the entirety of level 12. I don't know if I can truly express how god-awful the level design is any better than that. Something I experienced during my most recent run is that, in many levels, there wasn't even enough time to plant a full lane of attacking plants, which is completely ridiculous. The sun meta seems to be based off of PvZ1s, where 1 sun is equivalent to 25 sun in PvZ1. However, the level design is even faster than PvZ2's, which was already too quick for most players. The current meta is so piss poor to the point of plants like a 2-cost sunflower actually suffering gameplay-wise from being too slow for the level design. PvZ3's wave progression is ungodly fast, with zombies spawning around every 5 seconds. For reference, in PvZ2, zombies would spawn in around every 20 seconds if you take too long to destroy the wave before. However, this isn't all there is to the level design. In PvZ2, if your plants did somewhere in the ballpark of 35% to 50% of a wave of zombies' total HP, the next wave of zombies would spawn. The same system seems to be in PvZ3. I don't know the exact numbers. Problem, the waves themselves seem to be timed, so if you kill zombies too quickly, there will be long periods of time where you just don't do anything. Said issues with the level design and sun meta lead to power-ups becoming pretty necessary to deal with a lot of threats. There were a lot of times where I had to rely on the Grapes of Wrath just to not have to waste power-ups or Mo, and I don't even want to get started on how the Grapes of Wrath are automatic. I absolutely despise the addition of a life system too, especially due to many levels just being cancerous in design. Though I think it's incredibly obvious to everyone watching why life systems fucking suck. In general, the pacing of adventure, such as when you, well, not even unlock, just get to use new plants, when you unlock items like the shovel, or when you encounter new zombies, is way too slow. People thought PvZ2's pacing was bad with there being plants spread apart very far, but at least PvZ2 had interesting level gimmicks to make up for that, such as conveyor levels, endangered plant levels, world-exclusive minigames like Not Okay Corral and Cannons Away, Last Stand, etc. The most minigame-like level in PvZ3 is the one where you have 2 walnuts and 3 squash. Now I can somewhat excuse this because, once again, this is a beta, and they aren't going to release the full game as a beta, but if it's like this come full release, then good lord will this game be boring. Aside from the problem with the pacing, all of these issues, plus some I haven't even mentioned yet, such as the lawnmowers being replaced by just Mo, seem to be because of how PvZ3 is shifting towards being something it's not. Throughout the entirety of PvZ3's production, what it's trying to be has been a consistent problem. Older versions from 2019 and 2020 were shunned throughout the community due to it being a blatant Clash Royale ripoff. The most recent iterations are much closer to that of a weird mix of the strategy and puzzle genre, and this puzzle notion is constantly being pushed by the developers. The word puzzle is in the Google Play description 6 times, most of it under a section specifically about PvZ3's puzzles. Considering how almost no levels in the game are puzzle-like in any way, it's safe to assume that what makes PvZ3 a puzzle game is the fact that you can't pick your plants, which means, unfortunately, it's 99% likely that it'll always be this way. The same is very likely true for the life system and power-ups, as those are constants in modern mobile puzzle games. Furthermore, there is no real strategy to the game at all, considering how you can't choose the plant you're using, and I can't emphasize enough how vital to the PvZ franchise this is, as it's literally the core of the gameplay in the first 2 games. Much of the strategic aspect to the game is already gone. Then there's the fact that, in the level you're playing, you don't even know which zombies are in it. This means that the gameplay is entirely reactionary. It's not like you can just replay the level after memorizing which zombies show up and where, because there is no replaying a level. You either intentionally lose a life, or you scrape your way through the level and never play it again. It's mind-blowing how this is considered a strategy game, and I can guarantee that most PvZ fans don't find this enjoyable. What's ironic is that, while PvZ1 was so innovative and memorable to the point of literally inspiring an entire genre of copies of itself, PvZ3 isn't distinguishing itself from anything else at all, and has resorted to copying other games in the mobile market. It ends up having no identity or personality. I think Terror put it best. You can really feel that it's a 2022 mobile game, especially with the UI and homescape style customization. PvZ2 expanded on the first in nearly every way, so much to the point where I was barely able to realize that it was meant for mobile when I was playing it on PC. PvZ3 just doesn't expand on 2 the way 2 did for the first game. The new plants aren't really that different, and the few gimmicks don't add anything, they just slightly change the game. What also convinces me that PvZ3 isn't going anywhere is this part of the lead developer's LinkedIn page. Thanks, Matt Townsend. I really don't like where this is going. This isn't even the only puzzle game we're getting either, with the other being that PvZ match game or whatever it goes by now. But it's not like we can do anything about it, especially since they seem to be completely ignoring us. Now, I would love to believe that the developers aren't intentionally trying to look like they're disregarding the community, especially since they completely overhauled PvZ3 after all of the backlash it received. And maybe they aren't ignoring what we have to say, but there's been a serious lack of transparency between the devs and the fans. Over the last 2 years, the only communication we got from PopCap were the posts on their website when a new PvZ3 beta came out, and the former community manager, Homophilus, who ran the Twitter account and was decently active on the Reddit. That's until recently, actually, where a Reddit account, run by the PvZ2 team itself, became active, taking requests and suggestions from fans to improve PvZ2. I'm really thankful for this, even if it's barely active due to the lack of a community manager, as we're finally getting to see what we actually want to see in PvZ2. Meanwhile, PvZ3 isn't anywhere close to that. I'm not suggesting that something like this exists for PvZ3, especially since the game isn't anywhere close to being fully released, but there's a stark contrast between what the PvZ2 team is doing and severely limiting Google Forms that ask you questions like what type of furniture design you want to see. Yes, that is an actual question in one of the feedback forms. The fact that we're even getting feedback forms is pretty insane, but considering the state of 2019 and 2020 PvZ3, they were kinda necessary if the PvZ3 team wanted the community to have any faith in them. I don't have the problem with the forms as a concept, but they're executed in such a way where you can't actually give any valuable feedback. Every question is a multiple choice question, and as far as I remember, the only questions that may actually change one of the fundamental issues of PvZ3's gameplay is the one about whether or not the player felt the power-ups were necessary to beat a level. Their minds are made up about the issues we hate. The devs aren't stupid, and I'm sure many of them have seen either the countless PvZ3 criticism videos or read the various rants about the state of the game. It's kind of hard to miss them. I'm starting to wonder if the reason that nothing's getting changed is because, well, maybe this game simply isn't meant for us. Who knows what I can mean by us? Could be a number of things. PvZ3's current state seems to be, at least to me, directed much more at younger fans and hyper-casual players, so of course we have problems with it. This would be weird though, as no game throughout the franchise's history, aside from User Brain's EDU, headed in this direction, and were instead designed to appeal to everybody. Maybe we're a loud minority or something? I don't know. Hope not. Maybe I'm completely wrong too, and this is intended for all players, and the reason nothing's getting changed is because of the puzzle influence. If it's intended for everybody though, they aren't doing a good job at it. I'm going to go over possible comments now, just so I don't have to later. It's only a beta, why are you criticizing it so much? 2 reasons. 1, this is the 3rd beta where nothing's changed, so it's clear that it won't change. 2, I really want to see this game succeed. I wouldn't be here making this video otherwise. The Plants vs. Zombies franchise has been a part of my life since I was 5, and I don't want it to completely die. Why didn't they add any new content in this beta? After my most recent PvZ3 stream, I realized that adding your entire game in a beta would be somewhat suicidal if your goal is player retention. They very clearly have a lot of content that we haven't seen, such as all of the stuff in the trailer we got after beating the April version. When it comes to PvZ3's content, I'm excited, but would be a lot more if the issues with PvZ3's gameplay were fixed. Why haven't you talked about the sunk cost of plants? Because it isn't a fundamental issue with PvZ3, unlike stuff such as choosing your seeds, the wave progression, and the pacing. It's just a number on a screen and has no real relevance in the grand scheme of things. I hate the new art style. Okay, cool. I like it the most out of every PvZ game so far. Art and visuals are entirely subjective, thus I haven't mentioned them. Same for the music. Something something EA ruined PvZ. Why is this even being brought up? How is this relevant at all? They don't make the games and aren't the target of my criticism here. The PvZ3 team are the ones messing this up. PvZ3 has me really worried for the future of this franchise. For every good feature in this game, there are 5 bad ones. I don't know if the franchise will exactly die out if PvZ3 flops, but it's always a possibility. We don't know the financial state that PopCap's in. There's also the question of how PvZ3 is even going to make money. If there's one thing to come from PvZ3 that I'm sure most people will be happy about, it's that, due to the inability of choosing your own plants, there are no premium plants. But that just means that stuff like power-ups are going to be heavily pushed by microtransactions. I'm really trying to keep my hopes up, but PopCap isn't making it easy. This may be a dark age of the PvZ franchise. Hell, most of my friends have already given up on the future of PvZ, and even if it does survive, it seems that it'll be increasingly geared towards what the modern mobile app market looks like. As far as we know, the only new games being worked on are PvZ3 and that Match 3 game, and maybe a franchise that's as unremarkable as the next mobile game company isn't worth saving. But I don't think it's completely hopeless. There is the possibility of me being completely wrong about them not changing these core issues. Maybe they will fix this game and make something we truly want to see. Or maybe I'm just in denial. PvZ3 is definitely still very early in development, and placeholder content is pretty common, especially in the sound department. Hell, there's a fucking Five Nights at Freddy's noise in here. PvZ3 has the resources, but the question is whether or not they can execute. PopCap, if you're watching this, please listen to what the community has to say, or at least let us know that you're there. That's all I really ask for. And I know that it sounds incredibly ungrateful, but just because the team revamped the graphics and changed the orientation of the screen doesn't make PvZ3 a good game. Interacting and showing that you care does. Once again, this was really just me dumping my thoughts in a YouTube video, and I'm interested in what y'all have to say. Thanks for watching to the end, and I'll get the next plant analysis video up soon. See y'all in the next one.